Let me start with something that annoys a lot of people. Excel is not dead. It is not a beginner tool you graduate out of. Right now, as you watch this, more business decisions are being made in Excel than in every BI tool on earth combined. Finance runs on it, operations runs on it, your CEO's board deck was almost certainly built in it. And here's the uncomfortable bit. Most people who say they are good at Excel are actually good at about 6 things. Some VLOOKUP, a pivot table they half understand, some conditional formatting, and a chart they made once. That's not being good at Excel. That's surviving Excel. So this is the deep dive. We are going from the absolute basics all the way to the stuff that genuinely separates an analyst from someone who just types in cells. Data structure, the formulas that actually matter, lookups, properly, pivot tables, Power Query, which is the single biggest upgrade most people never make, dashboards, dynamic arrays, and how AI fits into all of it. This is long. Use the chapters. Let's get into it. First, let me settle the Excel versus Python argument, because it wastes so much time. They are not competitors. They solve different problems. Excel wins when the data is small enough to see, when the answer is needed in the next 20 minutes, when a non-technical person has to open it, understand it, and change a number themselves. That last one is huge, and analysts forget it constantly. Python wins when the data is big, when the task repeats, when you need version control or a real audit trail. Here's the practical rule I'd give you. If a human needs to touch the numbers, it lives in Excel. If a machine needs to repeat the work, it lives in code. And most real analyst jobs, they need both. You pull with SQL. You explore or present in Excel. You automate with Python when it earns its keep. Now, one more thing before we start. There is a difference between using Excel and building in Excel. Using Excel is typing numbers and getting an answer. Building in Excel means someone else can open your file 6 months later and understand what you did. That's the difference we are chasing today. Okay, foundation. And I want to be blunt. This is the part everyone skips, and it's the reason their Excel work falls apart later. Excel has 2 kinds of spreadsheet, a report and a dataset. A report is built for humans. Merged cells, blank rows for spacing, totals in the middle, colors that mean something only to you. A dataset is built for analysis. 1 row is 1 record. 1 column is 1 thing. No blanks, no merges, no totals mixed in. Here's the rule. Never analyze a report. Always build your analysis on a clean dataset and generate the report from it. When people say Excel is messy and unreliable, what they've almost always done is analyze a report. 3 rules for a clean dataset. 1. Every column has 1 data type. Dates in a date column, text in a text column. Never mixed. 2. No merged cells. Ever. Merged cells break sorting, filtering, pivot tables, and formulas. If you need it to look nicer, use center across selection instead. 3. Headers in 1 single row. Not 2 stacked rows, not a title above them. 1 row of clear, unique names. Now, let me show you the single highest return habit in Excel. Converting your data into a table. Ctrl+T or format as table. Most people think this is just cosmetic, stripy rows. It isn't. Here's what actually changes. Your table gets a name. So instead of writing A2 to A5000, you write sales, square bracket, revenue. Your formulas start reading like sentences. And when someone reads it in 6 months, they can follow it. It auto-expands. Add a row at the bottom and every formula, every pivot table, every chart that points at it includes the new data automatically. No more fixing broken ranges. And formulas auto-fill down the whole column. Write it once, done. The habit is simple. The moment data lands in your workbook, clean it, then press Ctrl+T. Give it a real name, not table 1. Something like sales_raw. And one more small thing that will save you. Freeze the top row. View, freeze panes. It sounds trivial, but scrolling through 4,000 rows and forgetting which column you're in is how mistakes actually happen. Right. Formulas. There are over 500 functions in Excel. You need about 20. Let me give you the ones that actually earn their place. First, the conditional aggregates. And these are more important than people realize. SUMIFs, COUNTIFs, AVERAGEIFs. Notice the S at the end? always use the S versions, even for one condition, because you can add more later without rewriting. SUMIFS is add up this column, but only where these things are true. Total revenue, where region is South and month is March. That one function replaces about half the filtering people do by hand. Then if, and the thing most people get wrong, nested ifs. If you're 4 levels deep in nested ifs, stop. Use ifs instead. Or better, a lookup table. Because a 5-level nested if is unreadable and it will be wrong in a way nobody notices. Then if error. Wrap anything that might break. But here's the caution. Don't wrap everything blindly. If error hides real problems. If a lookup fails, sometimes you need to know that it failed. Hiding an error is not the same as fixing it.
Now text functions. Because real data is messy and cleaning it in Excel is a genuine skill. Trim removes extra spaces, and you would not believe how many broken lookups are just a trailing space. When a VLOOKUP fails and everything looks identical, it is almost always a space or a number stored as text. Text split, if you have a modern version, splits one column into many, first name and last name, city and state. Before that existed, people used text to columns, which is still fine, and the ampersand or concat to join things back together. Then dates, and dates are where Excel quietly destroys people. Here's the thing to understand. Excel stores a date as a number. Day 1 is the 1st of January 1900. Today is just a number around 46,000. That's why sometimes you type a date and get a random 5-digit number. The cell is formatted as a number, not a date. It isn't broken. It's showing you the truth. Useful ones, EO month for end of month, dated diff for the gap between dates, and text to control how it displays. Let me cover the thing that trips up almost every self-Excel user. Absolute and relative references. When you write A1 and drag it down, it becomes A2, A3, A4. That's relative. It moves with you. When you write $A, $1, it stays locked on A1, no matter where you drag it. That's absolute. And there's a mixed version, which is where it gets genuinely useful. $A1 locks the column but lets the row move. $1 locks the row but lets the column move. Why does this matter? Because it's the difference between writing one formula and writing 400. Classic example. You've got a tax rate in one cell. You're applying it to 500 rows. Lock that one cell with $signs and you drag once. Don't lock it and your formula starts pointing at empty cells halfway down and your numbers are silently wrong. F4 is the shortcut. Select the reference, hit F4 and it cycles through the options. Learn that one key. Genuinely, it will save you hours over a career. Now, lookups. This is the part everyone puts on their CV and quite a lot of people get wrong. The job of a lookup is simple. I have a value here. Go find the matching information over there. Let's talk about VLOOKUP first because it's everywhere and you will inherit files full of it. VLOOKUP takes 4 things. What you're looking for, where to look, which column number to bring back, and whether you want an exact match. That last one. Always type false or 0. If you leave it blank, Excel does an approximate match and it will return something confidently wrong. This is one of the most common silent errors in business. Now here are VLOOKUP's 2 real problems. 1, it can only look right. Your lookup value has to be in the leftmost column. If what you need is to the left, VLOOKUP cannot do it. 2, that column number is hard-coded. So if someone inserts a column in the middle of the source data, your formula still says column 4. But column 4 is now something completely different. Nothing errors, your report is just wrong. So what should you use instead? If you have Microsoft 365, XLOOKUP. It fixes everything. It looks in any direction. You give it the lookup column and the return column directly. So inserting columns doesn't break it. Exact match is the default, which is the sensible behavior. And it has a built-in if not found argument. So you can say not found instead of getting an ugly n/a. If you're on an older version, and a lot of companies are, then index and match. This is the classic combination. And it's worth understanding even if you use XLOOKUP daily. Here's the mental model. Match tells you the position. It says that name is the 47th item in the list. Index says give me the 47th item from this other column. Together they do what XLOOKUP does in 2 steps.
It looks more complicated. It's actually more robust than VLOOKUP, and it works in every version of Excel ever made. My advice, learn index match properly. Use XLOOKUP when you have it, and when you inherit a file full of VLOOKUPs, at least now you know exactly where it can bite you.
Pivot tables. If I had to pick one Excel skill that pays for itself fastest, it's this. Here's what a pivot table actually is. It takes thousands of rows and answers the question, what's the total, broken down by what? That's it. Revenue by region, orders by month, customers by segment. 4 areas. Rows, what you want down the side. Columns, what you want across the top. Values, the numbers being calculated. And filters, what you want to slice by. The workflow that makes this click, start with rows. Drag one field in. Look at it. Then add values. Then, only if you need it, add columns. People make a mess by dragging 6 fields in at once and then wondering why it looks like soup. Build it one field at a time and actually look at each step. Now the setting nobody changes and everybody should. By default, when your source data updates and you refresh, your column widths jump around and your formatting breaks. Right-click, pivot table options and untick auto-fit column widths on update. Small thing, saves your sanity. Let me give you the pivot table features that most people never touch. First, value field settings. Right-click any number in your pivot, go to Show Values As, and you get % of total, % of parent row, difference from previous, running total. This is enormous. You can turn a table of raw revenue into a percentage of total contribution without writing a single formula. Second, grouping. Right-click a date field and group by month, quarter or year. Right-click a number field and group into buckets, ages 0 to 18, 19 to 30 and so on. Instant segmentation. Third, slicers. Insert slicer. These are the clickable filter buttons, and they're not just prettier filters. One slicer can control multiple pivot tables at once if they share a source. That's the foundation of a real dashboard. Fourth, calculated fields for a simple new metric. Though honestly, if the calculation is complex, do it in your source data or in Power Query instead. Cleaner and easier for someone else to follow. Now we're getting into the part that genuinely changes your working life. Power Query. And I'm going to make a claim here. This is the single biggest upgrade most Excel users never make. It's been built into Excel since 2016. It's under the Data tab, Get and Transform. And most people have never clicked it. Here's the problem it solves. Every month you get the same messy file, and every month you do the same 15 cleaning steps by hand. Delete the top 4 rows, split that column, fix the dates, remove blanks, rename headers. It takes 40 minutes and it's soul destroying. Power Query records those steps once. Then next month you drop in the new file, hit refresh, and all 15 steps run again in about 2 seconds. That's it. That's the whole pitch. It is a macro recorder for data cleaning, except it's reliable. You can read what it did and you can edit any step afterwards. If you take one thing from this entire video, take this. Learn Power Query. It will save you more hours than every other tip here combined. So what can it actually do? Remove rows and columns, filter, sort, split columns by delimiter or by position, change data types properly, which fixes most date problems at the source, replace values, trim and clean text in bulk. Then the powerful ones. Unpivot, and this one deserves a moment. You know those reports where each month is its own column, January, February, March, going sideways forever? That is a report, not a data set. Pivot tables hate it. Unpivot turns those 12 columns into 2. One column called month, one called value. Suddenly it's analyzable. Select your ID columns, right-click the rest, unpivot columns. Done. It feels like magic the first time. Merge queries. That's a join if you know SQL. Combine 2 tables on a matching column. Append queries. Stack tables on top of each other. 12 monthly files into one. And the best one? Combine from folder. Point Power Query at a folder. It reads every file in it and stacks them. Drop next month's file into the folder, hit refresh, and it's included. No formula changes. Charts. And I'll be honest, this is where a lot of analysts quietly lose credibility. Because the chart is what people actually look at. Here's the short version of chart selection. Comparing categories, bar chart. And use horizontal bars if your labels are long, because sideways text is unreadable. Change over time, line chart. Not a bar chart with 40 bars.
Relationship between two variables? Scatter plot. Parts of a whole? Honestly, usually still a bar chart. Pie charts are only acceptable with 2 or 3 slices. Beyond that, nobody can compare the wedges. Now, the things to stop doing. No 3D. Ever. It distorts the very thing you're trying to show. No dual axis charts. Unless you enjoy misleading people. Because you can make any two lines tell any story by scaling the axis. Don't start a bar charts axis anywhere but 0. That's the single most common way charts lie. And delete the clutter. Grid lines, borders, legends you don't need. One more principle. Your chart should have one message. If you can't say what the chart proves in one sentence, it's not finished. Let's build the structure of a real dashboard. Not a pretty one, a useful one. 3-sheet architecture. Sheet 1, raw. This is where your data lands, untouched. You never edit this by hand. Sheet 2, working. Power query output, pivot tables, calculations. All the machinery. Sheet 3, dashboard. Charts and numbers only. Nothing calculated here. This separation is what makes a file maintainable. When something breaks, you know exactly which layer to look at. Now the layout. Top left is the most valuable real estate on the screen because that's where eyes land first. Put your most important number there, big. Then supporting detail below and to the right. Group related things together and leave white space. A cramped dashboard reads as anxious. Add slicers at the top, connected to all your pivots. So one click filters everything. And here's the finishing touch most people skip. A text box in plain language saying what the dashboard is for, when it was last refreshed, and who to contact. That one box is the difference between a file people use and a file people ignore.
Now the advanced section. And modern Excel is genuinely different from the Excel you might have learned. Dynamic arrays. If you have Microsoft 365, one formula can now return many results and they spill down automatically. Unique. Give it a column, get the distinct values. No more remove duplicates on a copy. Sort. Returns the data sorted, live. Filter. And this one is the star. Filter returns every row matching a condition as a live formula. So you can build a mini report that updates itself without a pivot table at all. Sequence for generating number series, and you combine them. Sort wrapped around unique, wrapped around a filter. One formula. A live, sorted, filtered, distinct list that used to take a pivot table and 3 helper columns. The hash symbol matters here too. If your formula spills from cell E2, you reference the whole spilled range as E2 hash. So your charts and other formulas automatically pick up new results as the data grows. That's the modern way to build. 2 more advanced things worth knowing exist, even if you don't use them tomorrow. LAMBDA. This lets you write your own function and give it a name. If you've got a complicated calculation that gets copy-pasted around your workbook, you can define it once, call it something like net margin, and use it like any built-in function. Fix it in one place and it's fixed everywhere. And then Power Pivot and the data model. This is where Excel stops being a spreadsheet and starts being a database. You load multiple tables, you create relationships between them, exactly like a SQL join, and you write measures in a language called DAX. Why bother? Because a normal pivot table works off one table. The data model lets you build a pivot across several related tables at once. Sales joined to products, joined to regions. And it handles millions of rows, far past the normal Excel row limit. If you find yourself doing enormous VLOOKUPs to flatten several tables into one giant sheet, that's the signal. That's the moment to learn the data model. Right. AI and Excel. Because this genuinely changed in the last 2 years. There are 2 versions of this. Copilot, if your company has Microsoft 365, sits inside Excel. You can ask it in plain English, show me sales by region as a chart, and it builds it. And then there's the external version, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever you use, where you paste a formula or a description and get help. 4 things it's genuinely excellent at. 1. Writing complex formulas. Describe what you want in plain English, get the nested formula back. 2. Explaining inherited formulas. This is the underrated one. You open a colleague's file and there's a monstrous formula. Paste it in, ask what it does. It's faster than any documentation. 3. Debugging. Why is this returning n/a? It usually spots it instantly. 4. Converting logic between Excel and SQL or Python. Now what it's bad at.
It doesn't know your data. It doesn't know your revenue column includes cancelled orders. And it will confidently invent Excel functions that do not exist. Always test the formula on a few rows where you already know the answer.
Before we wrap, let me give you the mistakes that actually cause damage. I've seen every one of these break something real. 1. Hard coding numbers inside formulas. Never write times 0.18 for tax. Put it in a cell, label it, and reference the cell. When the rate changes, you change one cell, not 40 formulas. 2. Merged cells. I've said it twice, it's worth 3 times. 3. Analyzing a report instead of a data set. 4. Not checking your row counts. Same discipline as SQL. If you combine data and the row count changes unexpectedly, stop and find out why. 5. No documentation. One sheet called notes. What the file does, where the data comes from, what the assumptions are. 6. Manual copy-paste as a monthly process. If you do it more than twice, that's Power Query's job. And 7, the one that actually ends badly, building a critical business process in a workbook that only you understand, saved on your own desktop. That's not job security, that's a liability. And eventually, it becomes an incident. So, how do you actually get good at this? Here's the order. Week 1 and 2, structure and tables, clean datasets, Ctrl+T, absolute references until F4 is muscle memory. Week 3, formulas, sumifs, countifs, if error, trim, and the date functions. Week 4, lookups. Learn index match properly, then XLOOKUP. Week 5, pivot tables, including show values as grouping and slicers. Week 6 and 7, Power Query. Spend real time here. Take a repetitive task you actually do and automate it end to end. Week 8, charts and a dashboard. Then ongoing, dynamic arrays and the data model when you hit a wall that needs them. And your portfolio move? Take one messy real dataset. Build a workbook that goes from raw file to Power Query cleaning to pivot analysis to a single clean dashboard. Write one page explaining your choices. That workbook demonstrates more skill than any certificate. Quick recap. Structure before formulas. Tables, always. Lookups that don't silently break. Pivot tables are the workhorse. Power Query is the biggest upgrade you're not using. Charts have one message, and AI writes the formula, but you own the number. If this helped, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which Excel feature took you longest to finally understand. See you in the next one.